Welcome back, everyone, to the Country Hit Show here on Today FM. And my guest tonight is one of the most compelling new voices in American country music, in my eyes. His journey to Nashville has been anything but ordinary, and we're going to chat about that as the interview goes on. But right now, let's welcome Stephen Wilson Jr. to the show. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, Clodagh, for having me.
How are you feeling? You're back in Ireland. Are you excited? You're playing Trinity tonight. It's going to be an exciting show.
Yeah, I'm really, excited and grateful to be back here. I love this country, and this is going to be a real honor playing Trinity College. They have a great microbiology department, so I'm going to go.
Oh, that's what we're going to talk about now. Because
I'll nerd out a little bit over there.
Yeah, so many of our listeners are new. So this is kind of a new show here on the station. We're always trying to educate people about artists like yourself and so many others. Can we take it back to when Stephen Wilson Jr. was a little boy from southern Indiana? Can you tell us what was home like? You lived with your brother and your sister and your dad, and then that has led you to this huge career that you have now. But a lot of things were along the way as well. It wasn't just music from the start.
No, yeah, I grew up in the country. I was like a real quiet country nerd. A lot of people think nerds only come from the cities, but there's actually country nerds too. And I was, spent a lot of time studying like biology and sciences. But my dad was a boxer, and he worked on cars in a body shop. So he, knocked dents out of cars and knock dents into people like at night, and then fix cars in the day. There was like probably some weird poetic justice going on there that he couldn't quite figure out. But so I spent like my earliest memories are hanging out in boxing gyms and venues that hosted fights. Mm-hmm. And I started fighting at a young age because every kid wants to be like their dad, and my dad was such a young dad. Like, he was a teenager when I was born, and they had the classic kind of Pentecostal shotgun wedding. Mm-hmm. And so both of my parents were kind of babies raising babies. So my dad was real young. So I would watch him fight. Me and my brother would open up for my dad's fights. Like, they'd have kids fight, and they still do that to this day, but they'd have kids fight before the adults.
Yeah.
And so we'd watch our 25-year-old dad fight, and then naturally we wanted to be like him, so we started fighting. And so my first stage really was a boxing ring, and that's where I became comfortable being in front of people, because I was never comfortable being in front of people. So
which I find so hard to believe now when we see where your career has gone with everything.
Oh, thank you. It is a work in progress. It takes a village to raise a weirdo. And they did. I have a really great family, and I grew up in a really great town. And I was put in a lot of these rings at will, and sometimes just by chance. And I was really lucky to grow up in that environment. Mm-hmm. My dad was kind of preparing me for this life, whether he knew it or not, I think, through the boxing. And because there's really no greater pressure cooker system, in my opinion, of all sports, even, because it's one-on-one. It's not a team sport. You can't rely on your teammate to make up for where you lack, or vice versa. And it's just on you. So when you get out into a business like the music business, where they call it shadow boxing for a reason. You're your own worst enemy in the sport of boxing. And I think in the music business, it's the same deal. You can be your worst critic and your worst enemy and your worst advocate, or you can be your best critic, your best advocate. Mm-hmm. And you kind of make that choice in the ring, and it's what kind of keeps you going through the tough rounds.
Amazing. I mean, because I suppose, as you said, that really did prepare you for what you then led towards doing. You did leave your job back in 2016. Then you were a scientist, as you were saying earlier on. And were you so scared leaving that before going into the world of music? Because I can only imagine going from something comfortable to embarking on this big dream, going down to Nashville and trying to figure it all out. Were you scared?
Well, yeah, I was naturally, but at the same time, there's where you can be and there's where you're supposed to be, and I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. Yeah. It's just where it was a place that was convenient for me to go, and it was necessary. It was a huge part of my path. Mm-hmm. But, I had a lot of indicators tell me that I wasn't supposed to be there, and I had to listen to them, and as scary as that was, I kind of talk about this, feeling you can hear that I started getting when um, I started working there, and it got louder by the day. And if I could translate that feeling into English, um, it was, "You're not supposed to be here." That's what it said in, like, it was like a Morse code, kind of, or just like a buzz through my head. And as scary as it was leaving that job, what made me really leave was kind of scenario planning. I've always had a vivid imagination and been able to kind of scenario plan. And the thing that scared me the most was walking in that office one day and that sound be gone.
Mm-hmm.
And as loud as annoying as it was, like if it just gave up on me, that terrified me even more. So it was an easy choice after kind of seeing that scenario play out.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just a matter of like chasing after something that isn't real. It's anti-science. Science is like, built on so many, like what people like perceive as solid truths and structure and reliability and all that. And this was so antithetical to that because you're really kind of crazy by definition. You see something that nobody else does. I had never sang a song in my life for anybody when I left that office, like not one time. So like to think that I was going to go be a professional songwriter, it was absurd. Even to me, especially to everybody around me.
That is just, oh my God. That is just, even the way you describe things talking to you is just, it's so amazing to just even listen to you describe that journey. And it comes through in your music, the way you think, the way you write. And like, as you said, you went down to Nashville to write music first before embarking on a solo career. And you did have cuts from like Old Dominion and Tim McGraw and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. And then like, what was that calling then to be like, okay, you know what? I love writing for other people, and that you can maybe fall into that trap in Nashville sometimes if you are a songwriter as much as a singer. But like, how did you say to yourself, okay, Stephen, it's time to wake up now, and I want to actually be the artist on stage? What was the calling?
Well, I don't really see it as, it wasn't a trap for me because like the songwriting business was such a gift for me. Like it took me a couple years to get my first publishing deal after I left my job. It's not like I had all these like opportunities lined up. I'd never sang a song for anybody. So like, there's no way anybody was going to give me a publishing deal. It took me a couple years to kind of get to that point to where I could even start writing songs for other people professionally. And so I was so, you know, honored to be a part of that system because my whole career is built on that. Like, you know, I perhaps could have seen something in my artistry before and went after that earlier, but I was really blessed to be, put in the rooms with people that just wanted to write the best song. And so I really went to songwriting school in a lot of ways. And that was so crucial for everything that followed after that. And my dad was a big part of that. He was my corner man as a kid growing up, always in fights. And so like when I quit that job, it was very much a tough season, tough rounds. And so it was really crucial to have a good corner man in those particular years. And he was, but he used to listen to my demos. I'd play him all my songs that I'd write. He'd usually hear them first, and he would always say, you sound pretty good singing. And because he never heard me sing before, like, which is really weird until like 2016, 2017. He was
I was
like,
going to say, was music even at home? Like, was
no,
music
like,
a kind of a thing that
yeah,
you did?
yeah, I played guitar.
Yeah.
I was a
And did
guitar.
your father sing or anything like that?
No, nobody.
Wow.
Well, my uncle Rick sings, but no, like the idea of anybody seeing me sing on stage was very foreign because I was very quiet and very shy, and it just didn't like. But playing guitar was an outlet that I would accept, and it became my first voice, and it was my only voice for a long time, and that's why I really kind of gravitated to it because I wasn't really ready to do any singing yet. It took me a long time to kind of talk, and and the guitar playing did all the talking, and it still does. Now we kind of talk together.
Yeah, it's amazing, folks. If you have not seen Stephen Wilson Jr. play this guitar, it's like no other. I mean, I don't even know how I would describe you playing guitar. You just like fill a room and it's just you there. I was even showing my dad you performing at the CMA Fest only a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, "Where's the band?" I'm like, he is the band. Everything is that man is like from what you do, from your feet to the guitars. That he's incredible. And anyone that's going to the show tonight, you're going to, oh my God, you're going to just be mesmerised. And I can't wait to see what it's going to be like in Trinity.
I don't know about that.
And the most exciting part of all of it is we're going to hear all the songs from the album. So this album came out in 2023, and it was on the 5th anniversary of your father's death, what I think is very, very special. And we got a deluxe version then last January. So are we going to hear all the album tonight at Trinity?
Or as much as I can fit in before they kick me off stage. There is a time limit. So
do you know what?
There's a very strict curfew.
We won't even want to get you off stage, so we won't. We'll have to bring you somewhere.
Well, the city of Dublin, I think, will. They'll be like, you got to stop making racket, dude.
Oh no, it's going to be so cool. And you know, I can't wait, because I was one of those lucky people that went to the CMA Awards last November, and I saw you perform that star-dazzling song that just took, I think, everyone's eyes were not off you that night at the CMA Awards, Stand By Me, and then you were up for an award as well. How did that feel, that you were nominated?
It was a very surreal night. I don't really remember the performance. I still haven't watched it.
What?
Yeah,
I have it on repeat all the time.
Oh, really?
It's like, yeah, I watch, because I love watching things. You know, the way I love watching music videos as well, because I kind of feel like you get to really feel the song more than, you know, just listening to it on track. That's just me. It might be my weird side of listening to music. But I can't believe you have not watched yourself perform.
No, I'll just shoot holes through it. And it seems to have helped a lot of people, and I want to leave it at that. I like the memory of not remembering it. And because I just kind of blacked out, and I remember before and I remember after, which is kind of that night in a nutshell. That whole experience was very much a bookmark in the pages of my life. You know, there were the pages before that night, and there are the pages after, and it changed my whole life. And I think my dad showed up big time in that arena. It got weird and it got quiet, I guess, and
that's what I'm saying, quiet. Like there wasn't, like you would hear a pin drop when you perform, even at the CMA Fest 2 weeks ago as well in Nashville. Everyone just goes quiet. It's like something that I've never seen. And I'm not just saying that because you're here, but it's genuinely that effect that when Stephen comes on, everyone just chills out, and you can hear you can't hear anyone talk. It must, like, obviously you can't feel that from where you're standing, but that is a huge compliment towards you, and you need to watch that performance.
Thank you. I just kind of zone out, so I don't really, I try my best to notice all that, but I don't. But thank you for reporting it. It's a very meditative process for me. I gotta kind of dissociate and go somewhere else. I grew up in churches and kind of movements of the spirit and playing in worship bands, and there's a lot of I don't know, that same mentality goes into this music. It's a lot to think about without thinking about any of it,
because all your songs are extremely personal. I mean, I think you bring country music to like a different perspective, in the case of, you know, not that what's out there now is like any way wrong, but you just have your own way of telling a story. And one track that gets me all the time, I was even coming up in the car today from Claire, Father Son, that one just, oh my God, every time I hear it, it just gives me chills. And even the recording at the end, like, that is your father speaking, is it?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was our last time we hung out together. We were leaving a tractor pull, the Tampico tractor pull in southern Indiana, and it was Father's Day weekend, and it was literally the last time we physically were in the same room together while he was living. And yeah, he was just kind of going through his whole life, and I was driving, and we were just driving through these country roads, all these like rural county, like county line roads, and I just so happened to be kind of driving through his stomping grounds as a kid, because, you know, he grew up riding horses through these roads, and he was just a real hillbilly. And so he was reminiscing, and something told me just grabbed my phone, that voice memo app songwriters love to use. I just pressed record and turned it over, and something just told me to do that, and I did it. I'm really grateful I did
Oh
because
my God, it's like literally the tears. I was like, I have to stop listening to this now because if I keep listening to him, I'm going to go into the studio later when we're chatting. He's going to think something's wrong with me. That the mascara and everything. It's just there's something so compelling about everything that you put out there, and like
it
tonight
wrecks
is
me
just.
too if it makes you feel better. It,
Yeah, well, of
and
course.
it's,
I just, I just love the way you get a story across. It is beyond unique. And as I said, I'm not saying that because you're sitting here beside me. And that's why I'm always playing we play Gary a lot. Gary is such a cool tune. And right now you can't see it, guys, but Stephen is wearing a jacket that says Gary on it. Can you give us an insight into the song and where it came from?
well, yeah, it's in a lot of ways a subconscious manifestation of my life, like all my songs. But when I made Son of Dad as a one and done, I wasn't thinking about like I'm gonna make this album and I'm gonna have this career, and and I'm gonna be on tour, and like none of that was in the cards. Like when I was making Son of Dad, I just wanted to make a sonic monument for my dad. And I was hoping maybe somebody would stumble into it and it would help them out. Um, it was all pretty much funded by my, like a $3,333.33 life insurance check that my dad left. So it was all just kind of in my mind that it was on its own, and there was nothing after it because I just didn't, think any of this would happen. But it did. And so, that left me kind of thinking like, okay, well, where do I go from here? Like this, I was only planning on making this record and
Once now.
nothing happening with it, like most records. And, like it seems like pretty much most records I've ever put out and or had anything to do with, like in my indie band days or anything, it just seemed like it's so hard for, musicians. And so I didn't expect anything like this to happen, honestly. And so, like, continuing the conversation was a really difficult thing to conceive. Like, well, where does it go? And thankfully, Gary showed up, and I was driving around, shortly just after the record had been released, and I was kind of people were really starting to latch on to it. So I was like, and they're already asking me like, what are you gonna follow up with this? I was like, follow up? Like,
Yeah.
there's no follow up, But the song Gary showed up because I was driving around and I saw this memorial for a young man named Gary L. Russell III. That was a high school kid, which you don't see a lot of high school boys named Gary.
No.
Or any young boys named Gary, and that was how the whole song started. Started with a tragedy and a heartbreak because I could see the grief and the love and the heartbreak that was put into making that billboard to kind of immortalize that young man and refuse to forget him, just like I made that album for my dad. The same way I could see that was their Son of Dad, was that memorial for that boy. And so I just started writing that song while I was driving. It literally just poured out the whole song. I always write my lyrics first, and then I put it to music a couple hours later. I kind of came up with this like riff that felt like pistons, like a motor, like moving in like cycle, like synchronized pistons, like very mechanical, and just kind of like a car turning over, just the same thing over and over again, because that's what a car does. So that was really where the music came from, and I was just kind of driving at 55 miles an hour and singing the song. So it came from a very much a real place, and I grew up in this body shop with all these Garys, literal and metaphorical, that were all fixers, and not because not because they had a God-given talent at fixing things, but because everything around them was broken in my little town. And so they just became fixers and I think that's so poetic, and so that's art in a nutshell, is observing the brokenness of the world. And whether you choose to fix it or not is an entirely different task, but they chose to be the fixers. And I think there's a lot more complexity to that character, as I call it, than than is on the cover of the book, you know. And so I'm kind of peeling back the layers there and showing the world that there's a lot more to Gary than you think. And we're going to need those Garys, because I feel like technology is moving at an alarming pace, but we're still running on like conventional plumbing and, you know, back home at least septic tanks and, you know, combustion engines, and we still need those fixers. And, you know, Chat GPT, AI ain't going to show up, I don't believe. And I always joke around, but a guy will. And if his name is Gary, you're probably in pretty good
you know
shape.
what? You're saying we need more Garys in the world. I think we need more Stephen Wilson Juniors in the world now. I could sit here and listen to you all day. And now that I know the concept of Gary, I'm going to be more clued into the show tonight. I'll be thinking of the car in my head when you're singing it. I'm so looking forward to seeing you tonight at the Trinity College. And thank you so much for taking your time to come on to the show and educate us, not just about music, about you, and even to the listeners who don't know who Stephen Wilson Jr. is. I can guarantee you that when you're back in October in Sligo, he's coming back again in Sligo, that you know what, it's going to be a different show completely again.
Oh, thank you so much, Clodagh. It was a pleasure spending the time with you.
Thank you so much, Stephen Wilson Jr., everyone here on the Country Hits Show. And here's his song, Gary, that we were just talking about.
Thank you very much.